My name is Glenn Churchill. Currently I'm residing here at, in Rochester Hills, 1553 Middleside Drive, Rochester Hills, Michigan. The date is March 31st, a Thursday, 2005. My kids have asked me to just say a few words and just tell a little bit of the history, my history and my going back in my family's history. I was born in northern Michigan, July 10th, 1922. So currently I'm 82 years old. I'll be, in 4 or 5 months, I'll be 83. When I was, the first winter we spent in the lumber woods, Camp 11. My folks were the foreman. My dad was the foreman and my mother did most of the cooking. He had a brother, Harrison, and they married sisters. My mother's name was Madge and her sister's name was Pearl. And the four of them pretty well ran the camp. And they hired all the local young fellows to do the logging. And I had 3 older brothers and an older sister that we all lived at, we all spent that winter in Camp 11, and they missed a year of schooling. But I guess it was really humorous, some of the things that went on in camp. But when I was a year old, we moved to East Jordan, Michigan, which is just maybe 5 or 6 miles away. And my brother Kenny was there, born there in 1924. He and I are the only ones still living now out of 8 of us. We had a younger brother and sister that were twins, Keith and Keitha, and they have both recently passed away in the past year or so. The oldest one is Floyd. The oldest brother is Floyd. He was born in 1911. My folks have been married in 1910. Howard was born in 1912. Louis in 1914. Veda in 1917. I was born in 1922. Kenny in 1924, and the twins in 1926. We moved to Detroit in 1925, and we lived in with my Uncle Dewey, my mother's brother, just for the better part of a year. And then we moved to Hazel Park, Michigan, which is just on the northern outskirts of Detroit. A little incident when I was 3 years old. My sister Veda was 5 years older than I was, so every night my dad would come home and he'd always leave something in his lunchbox for a treat for us kids. And we'd have a race to the car when we'd see the car coming in. And he'd usually leave a piece of cake or an apple or something like that. And we'd race to see who could get it. And this one time they didn't see me coming and I raced there and I got jammed in between the garage door and the car. And I guess I was screaming. I was 3 years old, and Veda was jumping up and down hollering, and my dad got out of the car, and Uncle Dewey came racing out of the house, and they picked the car up and moved it over and got me out of there. And Uncle Dewey carried me into the house. And they called the doctor, and he said, he'll be okay, just stay in bed for a day or two. But that was just one of the little things that happened when I was 3 years old. And then the next year we moved to Hazel Park in 1926. 8 Mile Road, which is currently a very busy road. They call it Baseline because that was the surveyors used that as a baseline of all their laying out of plots for the communities north of there. And but that goes all the way across the state of Michigan. Baseline does. It wasn't paved at that time, and there was a big ditch along the side of it. I just remember seeing that when we'd go out for a car ride. But none of the streets in Hazel Park were paved in that time. Then in 1926, my mother was getting ready to deliver a child. She was pregnant, and her sister, my Aunt Beatrice, lived right near us, behind us, and they had nobody had phones. Almost nobody in Hazel Park had phones at that time, so they couldn't call the doctor. And I was the only one home, Kenny and I, the only ones home. So she said, Glenn, go over and tell Aunt Beatrice that I'm due, I'm going to have the baby and I need her help. So I said, okay. And so I ran back there, and Bun Scott came running around the corner with a cowboy outfit on, a brand new outfit. He said, come on, Glenn, you're on my side. He said, we're playing cowboys and Indians. So So about a half hour later, Aunt Bee came out and she said, "Hey Glenn, how's your mother?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I was supposed to tell you. She was going to deliver a baby soon and she wants your help." She said, "You little Dickens," and she was about 250 pounds, and she ran across with a big apron flop, and she was telling me later, she said, "I can just see at the sight I was running across the yard." She said, "I got to your mother just as one of the babies was already coming out, and it was Keitha." And then about an hour later, Keith was born. That's, I thought that was humorous at that time. They kidded me about that when I was 18 or 20 years old. I finally told them, "Look, the moral of that story is," and my mother said, "What's the moral of that story?" And I said, "That sending a young boy to do a man's job." And but their personalities were something. Keith and Keitha. Keith was always a toughie. If he didn't agree with you, he'd just kick out. He'd just lash out and kick you. So I told all my friends when I'd introduce him, I'd say, "Don't go near him. You know, when he gets mad, he kicks." And so we started calling him Tuffy. And Keitha was she probably had the sweetest personality I ever saw. And we nicknamed her Babe. So Babe and Tuffy were the twins. But I never saw cuter kids. They were just as cute as they could be. And we've got pictures that show them. One time they were about a year old, a year and a half, and they were sleeping upstairs, supposed to take a nap, and Kenny and I were outside with my mother. And I looked up and I said, "Mom, look up there." And they pushed the screen out and they were throwing sheets and pillows, threw them out the window. And I said, "Look out below." And my mother ran in there, "Boy, look at those kids." She said, "I can't leave them for a minute." So she ran in and got them. But then later I remember she had a real extra wide buggy. It was for twins. And she'd push it down the street and we'd go for a walk almost every day. It was nice. Kenny would hold on to one side, not hold on the other. A 2-year-old and a 4-year-old walking down the street with her. But that's the way she kept track of 4 kids. But she was a great mother. She would later she'd take us outside and play ball with us and do anything we wanted to, play games. One time we had a dog. We lived across from the United Oaks School, and right straight across the street. And I think I was 7 or 8, and so Kenny would have been 6, and we had a little dog that we both just loved. And I was on one side of the street, and Kenny was on the street by the house. And a kid down the street was about 18. His name was Norman Towell. He got in the car and started racing down the street toward our house. The dog saw me across the road, and he came running over to me, and it hit I can still see that dog as the car hit it, and going up in the air. And Kenny just started screaming. He went frantic. So my mother ran out, and we had a burial out in the backyard. She got a box, and we buried it, and we had a funeral service. And my mother consoled both of us. We were screaming and hollering, and that boy just kept going. He never stopped. So ever since then, I've held it against him for some reason. I just thought that was mean. But we had a great childhood. I'm just rambling here, but Depression came along, 1929. I was about 7 years old. I remember, boy, we had everything up until then. My dad had a great job, and we had a new car and a new house, and he lost everything.
What did he do?
He made a few payments on the house, and we lost the house in, I think, 1930. So we started moving every couple of years, renting. And one of the nicest homes we ever lived in was on Granite Street. And my Aunt Bee at that time, they moved in next door to us, and they had 4 boys. And all of their initials were VL. The oldest one was Valoris, and they called him Pete. Valoris Lee, I think it was. Then Virgil, and then Verdon Lester, then Verlin Leroy. So it's all VL. In 1931, they had a little sister, and they were going to name her Virginia. I think it was Virginia Lee or something like that. And they said, no, don't saddle her with another VL. 4 boys enough. So they named her Thelma.